to another yoga class. Thought we'd start with a bit of standing postures and warm up as we usually do, and then start to move through some flow with a focus a bit on balance today. So how about setting up your mountain pose, and just check you have the hip distance feet. Generally that's more stable than feet together, but it's always your choice. Spreading toes, lifting arches, and that check through your knees that there's a bit of give and flow rather than a locking into your legs or through your knees. And then if you want to close your eyes, feel free as we just take some time to focus in on the breath. And you might turn your focus and attention down into your feet and even through the floor, standing into that ground, almost as though you're drawing energy up from the ground and into the legs, into the rest of the body. And as you're doing that, lifting into your spine, it might be just the little list of movements, creating space into the spinal column. Where you might draw your shoulders back and start to lift your shoulders up to your ears and down again with your breath, breathing them up, breathing them down. A couple rounds of that, and then allowing your shoulders to almost be heavy, feeling the length through your arms, through your fingers, through your whole spine, through your whole body. And attending to your breath. Find the flow of it as it is. As you turn into your breath, there might be a natural lengthening of it, where you're really almost subtly lengthening your exhale and your inhale, but without overdoing it. And having a few more rounds of that breath focused in on your breathing. So all the postures and the movements supported by the movement of your breath, really. And you might start from there to almost just shift into the one side of your body, and it doesn't matter which side you pick. Where you're leaning into it and see curving through your spine off to that side. Breathing your way back up and then sliding into the other side. And every breath we're just shifting off, but the breath is long, so there's a little lingering in it. Side to side. Coming back to a neutral place, pause, feel those feet on the ground, inhaling your way up through a reach of your arms, where you might look up and there's a bit of back bend, and then exhale your way into a forward fold. Inhaling as you come back upright. Take your time, unfurling your way, and then there's an opening, a lift, even a bit of back bend. And then there's another drop in where you're bending your knees, letting your head go. Exhale your way down. And we can have a few repeats of that. Upright, into the reach. Breathing out as we lower our way back down. Bit of side to side while you're in that forward fold. And then one more time coming up. And exhale your way, namaste hands at center. Having a few breaths here. Now you might open your feet wider and take a breath in and start to open through your sternum, ribs, lifting your chin. Exhale as you take your elbows and come into a forward fold here, or a kind of slump forward. Inhale, open. Breathing out to release it. And another round. And we'll just step back into our legs, hip distance. Taking another reach, and this time as we're folding down, we're going to start to add a little bit more into it, where you're taking hands to your shins, let's say, or your thighs, tabletop spine. And then breathe out and release. Bend your knees. Inhale back into it. Exhale, release. And another round of that where we're lengthening through, breathing out and folding. And then take your right leg back in a lunge behind you. Down onto that knee. And your hands still on the ground, maybe one or both. You can look to the floor, you don't have to look up. As you really press and anchor through the ground, coming upright more, and your arms maybe over your head or your hips still. Bit of half crescent. And then you might reach back, your right hand going to the right leg somewhere, or your ankle, your heel, back bend. Releasing, hands back to the ground here, and you're forward again. As you breathe in, coming back up to half crescent. Reaching back to add a deeper back bend. And then forward again through a full lunge. And this time into downward facing dog. Let's spend a bit of time here warming up this posture. Have a breath, and then as you breathe out to your knees, you can come up onto your knees and swap legs so that your right foot is the forward leg. Shift your hands by that foot, looking down to the ground. Just pausing with this one, warming it up. And then press through the feet, legs, half crescent, where you might reach your way back to your leg, your foot, back bending. And then coming forward. Take a pause. We press again and come up for a repeat. Half crescent through to that deeper back bend where you're reaching back to the left arm. And you can come through and make your way back to down dog. Through a plank from there, and you might settle to your knees and then lower your way down to the belly. And then coming up into whatever version of a back bend suits you. A little high, a little low, cobra. Pausing in it. And then we can press our way into child's pose, knees wide, big toes together, more or less. Reach out with your arms overhead and settle down through your forehead. Just as best you can, because you might be a bit more forward. And you can take a walk off to the right with your arms. Deep breath into the abdomen. Through midline and to the other side. And go ahead and come back when you're ready. Thighs more towards each other. And back to that downward dog. Remember, your hands are roughly shoulder width. And your feet are hip distance, toes forward. And then taking a walk of your hands towards your feet. Bend your legs as you need. So you're in a forward fold back of the mat. Starting to come up from there again. Through a reach. Exhale your way. Front of your mat. And back to mountain pose. Finding that stability of your posture here. And the alignment. So we'll start some salutations. Breathing in, lift arms up, exhale, fold. Inhale, take the lengthening of spine and legs. Breathing out, release, and right lunge. And then coming up, arms over your head if you'd like, full crescent on the ball of the back foot. And hands to mat as we step back into dog. Through your plank, low plank, high plank, dipping, exhale. Inhale as you come up to your version of the back bend. And from there, start to press back. Child's pose or down dog pose. Few breaths. Reestablish down dog. Lifting your right leg and lunging that one between your hands. Finding your balance there as we come up. Taking full crescent here. Another breath, hands down. Press your way into down dog from there. And moving through the sequence, vinyasa, planks and dips to the back bend. And again, you can go to dog or you can shift back, child's pose, sitting, have a bit of rest. And maybe just one more long breath with your resting. When you're ready, you go back to the dog pose. Starting to lift that left leg through a lunge of that foot as we step forward and sit down into the chair pose at the top of the mat here. Taking a deep breath, exhale to fold through. And then just start to come up, unfurling, taking a reach if you want, and back into your mountain pose. A few breaths in mountain. And we continue through another sequence of salutation. Folding down when you're ready. Take the inhale to lengthen. Breathe it out. Stepping that right leg back. We can come to full crescent again. This time maybe wrap your right arm over your left. If you want, eagle arms, lifting your elbows. And then step your way back into that down dog. Through plank and chaturanga dip. Into the next round of back bend. Sit back or press back into dog. We start to lift the right leg and take that one to the front, setting up the full crescent here. And then perhaps your left arm wraps over your right. Eagle arms. Coming through and back to dog. Breathing in, plank. Breathing out, chaturanga. You can take up dog or cobra. And this time have maybe a little longer rest before switching to it at the next sequence. As you rest, whatever position you're in, keep checking your jaw, your eyes, your shoulders, and even your breath as we slowly release into a bit more ease. So there's this continual checking inward. When you feel your mind scattering and going out of yourself, you just drop back in. That's part of this practice, really, the yoga practice. So setting up dog from there when you're ready, and start to walk or lunge, even hop your way to the front of your mat and back to the chair. And then here we might take a bit more work with balance. So let's say your right ankle is on your left thigh. Back to both feet on the ground. Remember to connect to the core, the pelvic floor muscles, and start to swap off to the other side. So working that standing leg, but also the hip of the opposite leg. A breath, exhale both feet to ground and forward fold. And then start to unfurl again. And you might be reaching up. And then shake it out. Let your breath go as well. Arms, legs. Your head and neck. So see where there's tension that's built itself up and release it with your breath as well. And back to the top of your mat when you're ready. Mountain pose. Hands together or by your sides, up to you. Coming into your right leg. And we'll start to lift this left leg and taking your big toe, starting to lift to the big toe hold. And we're just modifying it really with a bent leg for now. From there, can you take that left leg and lunge it back to the ground behind you? Coming upright and then into warrior one. So the front leg is bent. We're sinking into the back heel, square off your pelvis. And you can always choose to have your arms down. Let me turn to the opposite mat here to show you. So from there, can you start to transfer your way into a warrior three? Lift that back leg up, hands to the ground, let's say. And then back into warrior one. Have a breath where you're shifting your weight forward into those hands on the mat, lifting the back leg again. And back to warrior one. Warrior one, your feet are on the ground looking forward. And then step to the front of the mat again. And then we can shift from there to the next leg. Start to lift, take your big toe hold. And then the transfer from there into the warrior three, so that leg is out behind you. Lower it to the mat as you shift your way to warrior one. Have a breath, lift that leg, warrior three. And a repeat of warrior one. Back to the top of the mat and into mountain pose. Some days are more wobbly than others. Some days not as balanced as the next. Deep breath, reach, exhale your way down again. Back to chair. From chair, can you start to take your right leg back behind you to the ground? A lunge position and a twisting lunge to look to your left. Back to neutral center and step to dog. From there, plank, chaturanga. Into the back bend, and then take a pause if you need it and want that in a child's pose. One last breath while you're there. And then start to set yourself up into down dog again. You might walk your way or lunge your way to the front of your mat and back to that chair. Take a breath. Transit into that right foot so you can lunge your left leg back. And then from there you can take a twisting lunge towards your right. Breathing in, we come back. Exhale to step to dog. Through plank. And chaturanga. Another opening through a back bend. And another rest. Checking your jaw again. Your whole face. Start to release any kind of residual holding. Just a few more breaths with the rest. And then back to the dog pose. Coming through your full plank if you're up for that. You can always drop to knees if you need. Lifting through your left leg. And then drawing that left knee to your left upper arm, firefly. Back to dog. Plank. Lift the opposite leg. And then we come to firefly on that leg. And it might be that your foot is on the ground. Modify it. Pressing back. To plank, lift that left leg, repeat. Down dog. Breathe in forward and again. Firefly. Back and then down to your knees and take a rest. Let your breath go again. So we might start to shift from there to buttocks and have a seat. Just keep having that little bit of pause. And then, sorry, let's set up for upward table. So your hands are back behind you and your fingers turn to your buttocks roughly. So you have to kind of check in and see what's comfortable for your shoulders and arms. Press through your feet and start to lift. Press those thighs upwards. Maybe one more breath with it, and then you start to lower your buttocks back to the floor. You can cross your legs and take a rest forward. You might even, well, if you have a block, you can rest forward. You don't need one. You can just have hands to ground, letting your head be at ease here. And another breath as we come back up. Set the same position of your arms and hands. You can do the upward table just as we were, or you can try upward plank. Legs out long, big toes together roughly, but let your heels part. And we have to press through those arms, make them strong. Start to press into your heels and forward as you straighten the legs and come up. Buttocks to floor, opposite cross of your legs. Exhale your way into a fold and just release whatever holding and tension there might be around your shoulders. One more round, and you can pick either of those versions, upward table or upward plank. Take your breath and then breathe out and lift. Down again and have your rest. Come coming up, and how about setting your legs out in front of you, staff pose. So we're sitting here, straight through the spine, strong legs. Inhale your arms up halfway here. And then we start to lower back. So you round your spine slightly and make your way down to the floor under control. You can have your legs bent if you require it. Rest it out, head side to side. Then we turn those fingers up to the ceiling again. And again, your legs are long, or you might have your bent legs as another option. Tuck your chin to chest. And we're starting to really draw that navel in. Shoulders off the ground, sitting upright as best you can. Using the abdominals to create that lift. Arms up halfway, or they might be all the way over your head. It's more challenging. Breathing out as we slowly lower down to the floor. Take a pause, really sink into the release with your breath, your whole body. Next breath, we set up the next lift. Up we go. And then you might even take the buttock flesh and kind of release it back. And bending one of your legs into your pelvis. So your foot is kind of on the inner thigh of the opposite leg. And you can let yourself fold down. You don't have to reach this foot, but you might reach this extended leg's foot. Up to you entirely. Take your breath into it. So you're following your inhale. There's a lift through the crown, through your body, and the exhale, there's a bit of dipping and lowering down. And keep in mind, it really doesn't have to be a big movement. It can be a small movement. Just a little bit of shift forward, like so. Come back, swap into the opposite leg, have a breath, and exhale your way down and forward to whatever capacity feels right for you. A little bit. You might really let yourself pour over that thigh. I'm taking small movements today, because small movements are sometimes maybe more beneficial for the body. So it's not important to reach your foot, in other words. Check in with the sensation. What do you feel at the back of your thigh? And is it enough for today? Coming up. And let's take feet to floor, maybe even your feet off the ground as you lower your way back onto that mat. And rest. And then you might turn onto your side body, and then onto your abdomen all together. Coming up to a Sphinx pose, so you're just propping up to your elbows and arms for a moment. Draw your belly in, press your pubic bone to the ground. So we're not just collapsing into it like this, we're really drawing back from the floor in this active back bend. And then slowly back to the mat. Bending your legs. And see if you can reach maybe one leg or both, arms to your ankles or your feet. And so you can do this one leg at a time. As we shift to bow, so one leg at a time or both together. Take a breath, and you let your feet be about hip distance, lifting up. But try to lengthen your low back. So there's this press down through your hips, upper thighs to some extent. One more breath and then slowly back to the floor, resting out. Back to another round. So you're doing the other leg or you're doing both simultaneously. Here's another modification where you might be on your elbow. Just a few breaths with it. And release when you feel like that's good for you. Hands tucked under your shoulders, press your way back into your child's pose from there. And coming into a seated posture again. Down onto the ground as we start to really slow down now. Extending, let's say, your left leg to the floor, and then support your knee and right ankle with your hands. Gentle shift of that knee to the center of your body. Almost as though we're going to move towards your opposite shoulder. And you can take that leg all the way off to a twist if you'd like. Allow the bottom leg to bend. Your head turning off opposite your legs if you want. Back to your neutral centered place. And then we can take that opposite hip into a bit of release. Support the knee, the ankle with your hands. And we're gently drawing that knee more to the center of the body at a diagonal. And then maybe you're taking it all the way into a twist here. Allow that bottom leg to bend as much as it might need for your low back. And then from there, when you feel finished, you can start to lie back if you want, or set yourself up seated. Coming into Shavasana to finish it all off. A few minutes in Shavasana with your eyes open or closed, but really finding a comfortable position to be in. You might take a deep breath and exhale it through your pursed lips. And having a repeat of that a few times. I've really started to add these sighs into the yoga practice that I find it personally really helps to release held tension. And I think a lot of people might find it quite useful. So sighing out your breath. And feel how it releases deep down into kind of the base of your pelvis or in your belly and helps release your diaphragm. Turning inward, deep, turning inward, going in and in. So from that surface kind of prodding of the mind and the way the mind is always reaching outward to figure things out and name things, let that go and turn in, deep down, into your torso, into your body. Finding that grounded place. Maybe dropping down into your exhale to help you find that grounded place. Follow your exhale. And simply staying here. Every out breath, releasing maybe a bit more to the ground. The sensation of the movement still perhaps tingling and percolating through your body. And a few moments just rest. Feel free to stay here lingering if you'd like, or to start moving and stretching in any way you need. Coming back to your breath. If you're wanting to come back more alert, take some inhalation for that. And thanks very much for joining me again. Lovely to have you